right, everyone, welcome back to Something Major. It's our sixth episode of the themed show that we're running every other day through the Australian Open after every round. I'm joined by Charlie Fox and the team at SIFT and Steve Johnson. This is a two-man show today. Our other compatriots, John Isner and Jack Sock, both are on airplanes right now. They could not make it. We are very disappointed in them. The commitment is it's here from us. They had flights, so what are you gonna do? But they'll hopefully be back in 2 days. Couple more updates. This is our semifinal review show. Sunday we're going to have our final review show. We also have our Stan Wawrinka interview coming out this weekend, maybe Saturday, since we got episodes dropping on Friday and Sunday, but it's going to be awesome. We also have an interview with Ons Jabeur and Tommy Paul coming out in the next few weeks. They're awesome interviews. Both were really fun. Finally, on the next show, we're also going to answer some Aussie Open questions. So put your questions in the YouTube comments. That's where we're going to pull the questions from. So if you want to get involved, you want us to answer your question, let us know in those YouTube comments, and we'll pick our favorites and we will answer them in 2 days. So with that, let's get to it. Not the most exciting semifinals on the men's side in terms of score lines. The first one, we'll start with Zverev against Djokovic. As you guys saw, first set Zverev 7-6, and then Djokovic unfortunately had to retire. Stevie, we know Djokovic had that little bit of injury in the last match, had the leg tape. Were you surprised that this happened, or do you think just the injury was, obviously it was a little too much, but a bummer for the fans?
Yeah, an absolute bummer for the fans. It's tough because we as athletes, I would say a vast majority of us, kind of like to keep things kind of close to the chest, injury-wise. We like to kind of downplay things if we are hampered or bothered by something, because we don't want to give our opponents or the field any type of information that could, help their motivation, their mental state, their belief in winning. But I think this must be a pretty serious injury for Novak. He, had a bit of a track record early in his career, 15 years ago, with kind of retirements, but not so much now. And it's an absolute bummer for the fans. It's a great first set, and watching the end of that tiebreaker, it was tricky because I don't think Sascha even thought it was a possibility. Novak misses that volley and just kind of puts his head down, is walking to the bench, and you can see he's a bit surprised when Novak starts walking over to him. But I watched a bit of the first. I was kind of following along, and watching Novak serve and volley is a bad sign for Novak. He's an unbelievable volleyer. He's not, but when he starts serving and volleying, I was kind of looked around the house and I was like, that's a bad sign. Like, I didn't see him retiring, but ultimately I saw, when you start seeing him do that early in the first set, middle of the first set, that tells me that's a bit of a tough sign for him going forward. And ultimately he couldn't do it. And maybe 2 out of 3, I don't know what you think, Sam, but maybe 2 out of 3, he kind of tries to gut out the next couple sets, but 3 out of 5 is a tall order if you are not even close to, 70 or 80%, whatever you should be.
Totally. And we've all had injuries like this. And I think you kind of talked about it. If it's 2 out of 3, it's different. But he's playing he loses the first set to Zverev. He knows that if he wants to win this tournament, he's got to win 3 sets against Zverev and most likely 3 sets against Sinner. He knows how his body's feeling. He knows after that first set that it's probably not possible. And why risk it and maybe tear something a little more in his leg? I think, if you're playing someone first round that's ranked 92 in the world, Novak probably knows that he could get by that person and maybe the leg will get a little better in the next round. But when you're having to go through a gauntlet of you just beat the number 3 player in the world, and now you got to beat the number 2 player and the number 1 player, your body needs to be feeling 100% to get through that series of players. And no one knows his body like he does, just like no one knows your own body. And so deep down, you're not going to beat these people. We've been there too. I've had little hiccups, little tears. So have you. You lose matches and you just know, like, I'm not going to win this match. And why risk it and hurt something even more? So it was pretty lame of the Aussie Open crowd to boo him on the way out. I mean, even Zverev after the match kind of addressed it to the crowd on the mic. He's like, guys, what are you doing? This is a 10-time champion down here. Maybe probably the greatest player our sport's ever seen. Like, he battled Alcaraz. He battled this first set. Why are you booing him? I mean, I'm sure you felt that was not cool from the Aussie crowd.
Let me tell you immediately, first and foremost, I have pumped the Australian Open crowd as a fun place to be and an amazing environment. But this was horrible, terrible, an absolute shocking miss from the Aussie fans. You do not boo somebody, especially Novak, who has done nothing but produce insane moments down there. Obviously, there has been some controversy with him surrounding the COVID issues and all that stuff. Sure, we put all that aside. But to boo him for not finishing a match because you paid money for tickets or whatever the reason might be, I think that is an absolute stone cold miss on behalf of the fans. And good on Sascha to do that. But we don't, I mean, honestly, nobody knows what has happened with Novak. We might not see him for 6 months because he's so hurt. And so that's the hard part. And I just think it's a complete whiff on their behalf. And it's sad to see because, nobody wants to get booed at their place of business. And I would assume most of the fans that were booing would not like it if somebody was booing them at their office or whatever they're doing during their day job. So, complete miss on their behalf, and good on Sascha to kind of take the mic immediately and kind of hopefully put that to bed.
Yeah, and afterwards in the pressure, they asked Novak, is this going to be his last Australian Open? He was kind of saying, who knows? Maybe I'll be back. I think he hopes he can be back. He just made a semifinal, so he's playing well. If his body's healthy, we see how well he can play, how good he can move. So I'm hoping he's back. But definitely a tough one for him. Semifinal number 2, Sinner and Shelton. It definitely felt to me like Shelton needed to win the first set. He had 2 set points, including one long rally, like a 30-ball rally that he didn't win. But in my opinion, after he lost that first set, it just felt like there wasn't an opening or it wasn't a path for him to get through that match. And then afterwards, Sinner kind of rolled. But Shelton did prove he stepped up. He broke Sinner out of the gate. He played well that first set. But you know what it's like sometimes, especially when you're like an underdog. Don't you feel like some players or sometimes there's like must-win sets, and that felt like a must-win first set for Ben Shelton.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. When you are the underdog, and especially that big of an underdog in that scenario, Ben, we've talked about it here, Ben is a competitor. He is as confident as anyone there is on the tour. That doesn't always translate to having the belief that you can win these matches every time. And him losing the first set, especially having set points, that is hard because that just takes away some of the wind in your sails. And you can see that in the last 2 sets, that Ben's, belief in his ability to win kind of doesn't go all the way down, but it just starts to creep lower and lower and lower. And when Sinner gets ahead, he is an incredible front runner. And when he smells blood in the water, he attacks, and he just kind of raises his level to the next hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be. And he got through that last 2 sets very comfortably. But Ben did not serve very well. And Sam, I think you had talked about this in the last episode, that he needed to serve well. Overall, serving for him 57% for the match, not first serve percentage, and he only won 58% of the points on his first serve. Not good for Ben.
He probably needs that number to be at 70%, honestly.
Yeah, if he wants to win that match, winning his first serve percentage for sure, and then winning his first serve percentage, backing it up, needs to be exponentially higher because his serve is an absolute cannon. So, he only won 55% of his first serve points that he made in. So that is a bad recipe for him. But look, he's still so young. He is going to be back. And overall, I think a bit of a bummer of a day for the fans, just because you want to see some knockout, drag-out semifinals. But I think we have the final that most people, or 2 guys that very likely could have gotten there.
Yeah, and I feel like when Ben was playing too, usually Ben with that massive lefty forehand out to a guy's backhand, you start to make a little headway. You can't against Sinner. Sinner is so strong on his left leg. He's out there. He just plants in that corner and hits the backhand down the line, cross court, wherever he wants. And so that lefty of Ben to the righty's backhand, it doesn't make any headway with Sinner. No one does. And it's such a tough recipe.
You're right. I mean, it's tricky because once you get into the points, past the third or fourth ball, fifth ball, whatever it may be, you got to assume the numbers and the probability of Sinner winning those points just exponentially grows with every shot. His shot tolerance, his movement, his ability to create from uncomfortable positions behind the baseline it might be some of the best we have ever seen in the game, and that is including Novak and Rafa and these guys who are moving like just gazelles out there. So the way Sinner can do that from those awkward positions, like you said, deep in the court, sliding with his left foot on a backhand is impressive.
It's a little odd. Like Sinner, I don't know if you saw, he got treated for cramps. Well, I'm going to assume that's just like he was maybe a little nervous being such a big favorite. I don't think it's an issue at all. The dude weighs about 135 pounds when he's soaking wet. There's that's not a fitness issue in my head, and he's going to go into the final feeling good, feeling fine.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of a weird thing.
That's strictly just nerves. These guys can play all day. Like when you see that, sometimes it looks a little odd from the outside, I guess. But look, I mean, me personally, I remember at Wimbledon one year I was cramping like a set and like 2-1 in. Like my arm started cramping because I was so nervous. Like my hand started cramping, and then you calm down, the nerves kind of get there. Every match is different. Just because Sinner has won 2 slams and won the Australian Open last year doesn't mean that he's still not going to get nervous. And I think I think it's a good sign to show that there's still like a human element to this sport of somebody who has dominated the last, let's call it 12, 18 months. It kind of brings like a tear to my eye to know that all right, like he still does get nervous. Like the number 1 player in the world still gets nervous, still has these butterflies in the stomach or whatever, trying to close out matches that he has been in routinely in the last 18 months.
No, it's cool to see. And so we've got Sinner versus Zverev in the final. They've both pretty much cruised to the final, right? Neither of them was really tested along the way. For the most part, it's been 3-set matches, couple 4-setters in there, but they both look good to the final. Sinner is on a 20-match hard court win streak at Grand Slams. For both these guys, it's their 3rd final. Sinner 2-0, Zverev 0-2. Do you think, I mean, the tennis fans know Zverev in these big matches seems to get a little tight at times. For a guy who's 6'5", 6'6", big serve, big forehand, big backhand, he seems to decelerate a little bit in these big moments. Do you think we're going to see a change in Zverev's game in this final? And do you think we're going to see him be aggressive, put his foot down, go after shots? Sinner is a 70% chance or 70% betting odds favorite right now. But what do you expect from Zverev? Do you think we're going to see the same Zverev that gets a little tight in big matches? Or is this finally the time that we're going to see a change for him and see him go after the ball?
I hope we see some change because actually this is a good point because he is 2-0 against him, or Sascha is 2-0 against him in slams on hard court. He's beat him twice at the US Open, once in 5, once in straight sets in 21 and 23. So he knows what it takes to beat him in a slam on a hard court. But he does need to be a bit more aggressive. You just can't out rally him or out kind of muscle him, side by side. It's going to take a lot of effort to win points by hitting 4, 5, 6, 7 good shots when maybe there is something on the second or third ball to take and be a bit more aggressive, maybe have a few more errors sprinkled in there, but ultimately pushing Sinner around to the point where he can't just leave balls hanging if he is in kind of a negative position. So I'm excited to watch this final. I think it is going to be great tennis. Both guys, arguably maybe 2 of the best guys from the ground in the world at this moment. I could watch them hit ground strokes kind of all day, and they do it extremely well. But I just think at the moment, Sinner comes forward and has a bit more firepower. So if Sascha can kind of flip that script, I think he has a very good chance. But having Sascha get through those first couple rounds with relative ease, he hasn't played one of those matches that's like 5 hours that we usually see at slams. So he should be extremely fresh, albeit 2 weeks into the tournament, and I'm excited for a really good final on Sunday.
Same. They're like I said earlier. They're both fresh. They're both looking good. I'm honestly a little surprised that Sinner, as of right now, is a 70% chance
That
to
seems high.
win.
I think that will come.
I think it'll come down a little bit. Definitely a favorite. Give me a prediction: Sinner or Zverev.
John gave me a hard time last episode. I had taken Sascha to win Australia before we started this event, so I'm going to stick with that prediction to say Sascha gets it done. He is, I think, arguably one of the best players to not have won a slam, and this is, another.
He's probably the best active player to have never won a slam.
Definitely active, for sure.
Maybe one of the best of all time to have never won a slam.
I'm like, the Burdiches, Ferrers, some of those guys, Nishikori, guys that haven't won a slam, but I think he gets it done, and yeah, I'm excited to watch that. So
you called Sascha winning it pre-show, so we'll see what I called Novak. Look, he didn't win, got a little injured, so there's a little asterisk next to that one.
Look, we all saw it. The off season in the Maldives really paid off, and he's down there playing well.
It did. All right, exciting men's final. Women's semifinal. First one was Sabalenka versus Badosa. Two really good friends. Both these ladies have awesome personalities. I don't know if you follow them, but like on Instagram and TikTok, super fun, super cool. They've talked about their friendship. I think it's always a little tough. We touched on this last episode, like playing a friend, especially in a semifinal. But Sabalenka pretty much rolls 6-4, 6-2. I don't think that was that surprising. Great tournament for Badosa, but Sabalenka, 20 consecutive wins at the Australian Open. She's looking dominant right now. Are you surprised with that? Because sometimes when you watch Sabalenka play, like she's a little kind of all or nothing, right? She goes after the ball. It's somewhat, I'm not going to say hit or miss because she hits a lot that are in. She doesn't miss a lot. But sometimes players with that kind of game style will have an off day, but she has not had an off day at the Australian Open in 3 years now.
Kind of like we talked about with Sinner and Shelton, Paula needed to win the first set. She needed to get out ahead. She needed to get a lead. We had talked about being her first semifinal in a slam. So she, after losing the first, you kind of sometimes feel as if the belief wavers a bit. And Sabalenka has won 20 straight matches down there now. She knows what it takes to win. Like you said, she's a bit hit or miss. She likes to litter the stat sheet, I like to say.
Yeah.
And, she is hitting the ball so well, forehands, backhands, just clocking winners left and right. So it is a great effort from her. She is obviously very comfortable down there, and she will have extreme confidence and I think comfortability in her third straight Australian Open final. But it's great to see Paula that is back. Having been injured, everybody knows how hard it is to get back to form. She was 2 in the world, so to see her getting back to these big moments, I think it's great for tennis and great for her personally, just because we all know how hard of a road it is sometimes to get back from injury.
Yeah, and Sabalenka talked about a quote from an article. I worked on my biometrics. I thought it was my mentality, but it wasn't. We changed a lot of things on how we work on my serve. We tried so many different things. We watched a lot of videos.
And the crazy thing for her, not too long ago, there was a severe case of the yips on the serve.
Yeah.
Like a severe case where it was 20 double faults a match, 25. Like she couldn't put a serve in to save her life on second serve sometimes. So that's what great athletes do. Everybody goes through tough times, and the great ones come out the other side stronger. And kudos to her. She's continually working to make, I would say, is her weakness on the serve, because she is so good from the ground, forehand and backhand, to being a strength. And she hits the ball so hard.
Yeah. We always talk about like how hard she hits the ball. Like at the 2024 US Open, just so everyone knows, the average forehand speed, Sabalenka was 80 miles an hour. The next 3 are Alcaraz at 79, Sinner at 78, Djokovic at 76. Now this is just speed. This isn't taking into account spin and things like that. But when it comes to just speed, Sabalenka does hit the forehand harder than anyone in the world at any given time. And you see that. She's strong, she's lengthy, she's got good leverage, and she hits the out of the ball, and she hits it fast. Yeah. And it's pretty impressive that she's into her third straight Aussie Open final. Semifinal number 2, Keys versus Swiatek. I always find it weird also, Swiatek. everyone says it like that. Where's the N in the last name?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But
everyone has said it that way.
Swiatek, so I'm saying
heard
it
it's
like
correct.
that. This was the match of the tournament. We've kind of been looking for that unbelievable match. The Djokovic-Alcaraz match was great, but it was a 4-setter. No sets went to a tiebreaker. This was the match of the tournament. Funny side story on this. When I woke up while I was watching highlights, saw that Keys won, I go in my phone to text Madison. This is 7:15 a.m. our time, so it's 2:15 a.m. in Australia. I go to text her. I actually hit the FaceTime button. I panic. Like, I panic. I hang up. Abby's like, "Who are you?" My wife is like, "Who are you FaceTime?" I'm like, I accidentally just FaceTime Keith. She's like, "You idiot." I hang up real quick. Madison then FaceTimes me back. I get the thing back. She's FaceTiming back. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's 2:15 a.m." It's like, and so I answer. I'm like, "Hi, Madison." But the video's not working. Like, we didn't have a good enough connection. And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I meant to text you. Like, I'm an idiot. I hope I didn't wake you up." So then I hang up because I'm panicking still. And then I text her, I'm like, "I'm so stupid. I just went like total like old man move and accidentally like FaceTime you." She's like, "No problem." I was like, "Good luck." And she texts me back. But now I'm worried that it was like 2:15 a.m. She was trying to sleep. And like, did she maybe not get a good night of sleep? If she doesn't win the tournament now, I'm going to feel like I'm responsible for her not getting like that proper night of sleep.
That's probably
I think she might have been up still because this match didn't finish till like 12:30 a.m. and she probably was still going back. But what an idiot move for me, accidentally FaceTiming Madison Keys. But kudos to Madison Keys she picked up my FaceTime. Who'd have thought? Like,
why is she concerned with you?
I'm a nobody. You're in a final of a slam. Anyway, it was almost like an ego boost for me that she was taking the call. Anyway, Madison 10-8 in a third set breaker. Unbelievable match. Save match points. This was an unbelievable match. And Madison, similar to Sabalenka, just has a dominant forehand. She hits the forehand so hard. For her to battle through this match was so impressive. And she's newly married. She's 29 years old. She had success here almost 10 years ago. And now she's back in the final. What impressed you about her in this match?
Just her mental ability to stay in the match. She lost a tight first set. You know, we talk about sometimes the belief wavering against the top players in these biggest moments. Didn't waver for her. She came back strong, nailed the second set 6-1. And then in the third set, when you get to that point, third set for the women, fifth set for the men, whatever it might be in a slam, it's a dogfight. Like, you need to go out there and gut it out. Doesn't matter how it looks, pretty, ugly, whatever. You just need to go out there and find a way to win. And she did that. You know, Iga was serving for the match, was up in the third set tiebreaker. Ultimately, Maddie buckled down. The confidence is there. And I am so excited that she won that match and has a chance to play for a final. And I think one of the interesting things is that we know as players, but maybe the outside, the people don't realize, Maddie switched rackets away from a racket that she had been using for probably 15 years.
For, I think, her whole career, right?
I mean, probably as a junior, but like 15, 20 years, she's been using the same racket, same Wilson racket, and now she switches to a Yonex racket. So that is a very hard switch from time to time. And sometimes it takes people a while to kind of get used to that racket. And it's taken her absolutely no time. She won a title. She's in the final here. So glad that has worked out for her. And it's so exciting to watch her have this success. I'm going to say late into her career. I mean, she's not that old, but she has been on the tour a long time. So I am excited to see her get another chance after the U.S. Open final to get another chance at a title here in Melbourne.
Yeah, just like Sabalenka tweaking her serve a little bit, Madison also new racket, tweaked her serve, and it seems to be working. It's cool to see good players still make changes, and for her to play so well, beat Swiatek, Swiatek was pretty dominant in this tournament up until this point. Pretty cool. And I don't know if you saw Swiatek, like, there was points in the match where like Madison's getting ready to serve, Iga's like doing practice swings.
It was odd.
You can see why Iga gets kind of a reputation sometimes of being a little bit annoying, quite frankly. But good on Keys for just like putting her head down, staying the course, and going about her business and finding a way to win. And you can see how excited she was when that last forehand of Iga sprayed long. Massive match. And shout out to her new husband and Bjorn Tangelo, who is also her coach. Does he get a raise after this performance? I don't know. How does that work? I want to ask Maddie. I mean, hey, is he go to you? Can he get a little bump in pay after the
Just
big
ask for
performance?
a little more of the percentage there. Or is it just go one account? Like, what? I want to know all the details there, but no, it's unbelievable for her. Like, it is, getting married at the end of last year. We all know how that kind of feels like. I don't know if that brings like a sense of calm to her life or a sense of just like less stress. Who knows what it might be? But whatever she is doing, at the start of the season, it is working, and hopefully she can stay healthy and have another, continue on this great trajectory she's on so far in 2025.
So we got Keys versus Sabalenka in the final. And those of you know, you and I kind of called the Madison Keys over Iga Swiatek upset. It was you and me. Not our other two pod members who decided not to be here today, but that was us. We were all over that.
That's why they're not here today.
Yeah, exactly. Keys versus Sabalenka. I hate to jump forward in the preview. I'm calling Keys to win it. I think she's going to keep the momentum going. I'm picking Keys to win it. Is she one of the few people, do you think, that can go toe-to-toe with Sabalenka in terms of power and not be intimidated by being kind of blown off the court with some of the shots that Sabalenka can hit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I both know what it's like to hit with Maddie, and that is not an easy feat because she hits the ball so hard. So my over-under is going to be like, I think they're going to break like 10 balls during this match, these two girls, like hitting the ball so hard. I think it is going to be a fun match. Two players who play relatively the same way. They both want to stand in the middle, and they both want to control the court on their own terms. So it is going to be a fun match to see who can kind of counterpunch the best in big moments, because we both know when these girls get the ball on their racket, it is going to be hit, and it is going to be hit very hard. So I'm excited to watch that kind of unfold. I think it's going to come down to, as silly as it sounds, like, an errors game. Like, I hope neither one of them press and one of them kind of has a great day, but I am going to be pulling for Maddie as well. I'm not going to go against her in this final, and that's going to make 2 for 2 for us on underdog picks here, Sam.
Sabalenka is 4-1 in the head-to-head, but they've had some close matches. If Keys can win it, she'd be the first woman in 19 years to beat the number 1 and number 2 in back-to-back matches to win a major. So that's a kind of a cool thing to have in your back pocket at a dinner party if you can pull off that.
Between that and a giant trophy, both things you can pull out at a nice dinner party.
And again, with Sinner being a 70% chance, 70% odds favorite to win it, Sabalenka right now is 75% odds favorite to win it. I'm shocked with that. Usually if you just get to a final, you don't have an odds percentage that's that big in one direction. Again, that can change. The final's still a day away, but I see it more as a 50-50.
The early money, how this works is it's just going to go straight to the favorite, because you see one versus, Maddie's, 19 or whatever she is in the world, or, seeded or whatever. And then on the men's side, I'm much more surprised because it is 1 versus 2, and those guys are neck and neck. But, Maddie and Sabalenka have never played in a slam final, obviously. So it's going to be different kind of nerves for both. So I'm excited to watch that for us. I got to figure out how the timing works. That would be Friday night, tonight for us, late.
Yes.
Right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Am I off on that? It's like a 9 p.m.
right.
for us on the West Coast time. So
yep.
I got to figure out the whole time change and zone. I'm very confused, but very excited to watch that later tonight for us. Really pulling for Maddie, and hopefully Sam, when we get done with this, doesn't FaceTime her at like 4 a.m. and wakes her up.
When she picked it up, for a second I was like, maybe I should screen the quarter conversation and get a little something major interview right now for like 4 minutes.
We don't have the technology prowess for that, Sam. We can't figure that out.
Total blunder for me. All right, snake draft update. Because Djokovic lost, Stevie and I are in a dead tie for last. So the pickleball singles match is on. We're going to be playing this match next week. We're still working out the time and day. But it is on. I'm going to beat Stevie because Stevie sucks. And the loser of that match will have to cold DM 5 potential guests of the podcast, and those 5 guests will be voted on or selected by the other 3 podcast members. So the big singles pickleball match is going to go down next week. There's a lot on the line. So we're going to see who wins that. I don't know if you have a strategy that you think's going to work. I guess maybe a little advantage for you. There's video evidence on my game. You could break down the video, see my strengths and weaknesses. There's no evidence of you playing. I just know that you suck. That's all I need. But good luck. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. You know I'm better than you.
I have spoken in the last, let's call it 24 to 48 hours, to a plethora of pickleball players who have agreed with me. They've never seen you win a singles match. So I have that going for me. You have been playing every day, all day for years now because you're just a dynamic athlete out there. But the biggest piece that I have going for me is your left Achilles is still not really functioning properly.
It's fine.
You cannot move that well, albeit I cannot move that well either, and I have no injuries. I literally have not moved since March 7th last year when I retired. So I am concerned for my own well-being that I'm going to get hurt, but I will die trying out there to beat you because I can't have this. I've talked way too much trash privately, publicly, and in all forums that you are a terrible, terrible singles player. Singles player. You're a good doubles player. You got good reach. You got good hands. But ultimately, your singles game is not what you touted it up to be, let's call it 24 months ago when you said you'd be top 10 in the world.
I just got a new paddle.
That's all I'm saying.
I just got a new paddle. It's so good. The new Franklin paddle. You're going down. We're going to have this video. The whole thing's going to be video. You guys are going to see it.
There's going to be some lowlights, some highlights.
But let us know in the comments who you think's going to win. The actual pickleball player or the guy that just doesn't know what he's doing on the pickleball court.
He's not wrong on that. I really don't know what I'm doing. But I just know that Sam can't move. So if I can just get him moving, I like my chances.
I think we're going to go one game to 15.
Oh, so you're just going to change the rules. I thought it was going to be 3 games to 7, just in case there was, some comeback.
No, it's 1 game to 15. It's 1 game to 15.
So you can just front run? I don't like that. I don't like that you just did that.
What format do you want?
What if you get out 9-1 and then I figure out how to actually play pickleball? I've never played singles in my life.
Well, then you better figure it out before I get 6 more points. You got quick time. All right, let's move on. All right, couple fan questions. This first one, Gene Junior Tigo 7452. What's the difference in Australia between playing a day session and a night session? Sometimes this is the biggest difference in tennis. Like a day session in Australia can be 100 degrees. The roof is open. It is hot as can be. The court is just melting. And then you go to a night session and it can be 65 degrees. Sometimes the roofs close if it's raining out. So this is probably the biggest difference in terms of heat and humidity you can almost have during the year. The day session in Australia and the night session in Australia. You agree with that, Stevie?
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at a draw or you look at the weather, because we're always checking it's going to be very hot this week or today or whatever it might be. There are some matches you kind of you tell your coach, I would tell Craig Boynton back in the day, hey, maybe today's an early day, let's play it at 11 if possible. Maybe can you go see if we can get on early for some reason because you are more capable in the heat over somebody else or, vice versa if you'd like to play at night and sometimes they take your suggestions and most of the time they don't. But it has the biggest delta of weather-wise, day to night. So Sam hit the nail on the head on that one. I enjoy playing in both atmospheres out there because they're both fun environments, but I enjoyed the heat because I felt like I could pretty much out-tough people. So the day sessions were always better for me.
Yeah, we got one more. Tolka135. How does prize money get transferred to players' bank accounts? How long does it take? Do you pay taxes? So everyone's got their bank account kind of linked to the ATP Tour. I would say you usually get paid 10 days after a tournament ends. And most of the time you pay taxes in that country. So if the Australian Open, you go there, you make $100,000, if the Australian tax is 25%, you get to take home $75,000, and the $75,000 will be wired to your bank account about 10 days later. You check as a player, especially if you got a big win. You pop a quarterfinal, a slam, or a tournament win. You go on the bank account a week later. You're the hit. Let me go buy something.
Absolutely,
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, you just wait. You're all right, just refresh. Every Thursday or Friday, in the next week, you're refresh. Come on, give me some good news. Give me some good news. But yeah, when you make a deep run in one of these tournaments, it's exciting. It's exciting.
Do you think Rafa or Novak or Serena or Roger ever hit the refresh after winning a slam? Be when's that $3 million gonna hit?
The first one for sure.
The first one, yeah. But not even. Once you win like 10, you don't look.
If they're not, then I feel like that's not the full truth because I'm definitely hitting that refresh. You win a slam, you're like, I want to see a couple commas float in that bank account.
Are you kidding? That'd be a good one. Good question. All right, everyone, that is it for Something Major, episode 6. We've got one more episode coming out in 2 days. Before we get into the trivia, we want everyone to follow us. Love in the comments. Keep putting them in. We're going to answer a couple more fan questions in the next one. Also, remember to follow us. We are on YouTube. And then we are also at Nothing Major Pod on TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. We have a Facebook? I don't know. If we do, it's at Nothing Major Pod. So if we do, just check it out. Trivia time. If Zverev wins the title, he will tie Wawrinka for second on the list of most Grand Slam attempts before winning a title. 36. So this is Zverev's 36th chance at winning a title. There's one player that it took more chances than that to win their first title. Name that player.
I have a guess. I think it's going to be a left-handed fellow, Goran Ivanisevic. I feel like he won it late in his career, unless I'm completely missing something early in his career.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Patrick Rafter.
I have my answer. It's locked in. Goran Ivanisevic.
That's my guess. All right, Isevic and Rafter. Ivanisevic, Wimbledon.
Let's go!
Is that the first trivia that you've ever gotten right?
Dude, you know what I'm excited for now? After I got that right, is the little doo-doo-doo-doo in the trivia. I think I just get smarter without the other two guys.
43rd attempt, he got it. Wow, that's well done. Well done.
Oh, played Rafter in the
final. I knew I was close.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if that could have been Rafter's first attempt at a final or first slam, for all I know. But
let's go. This is the kind of bump I needed to get me.
You're gonna have a good day now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good day.
All right, see everyone in 2 days.